Welcome to Drum LCK. My name is John, and today we're going to check out 3 of my favorite Chad Smith parts. Let's go. So Chad Smith has been a favorite of mine for a long time, and I really just always thought he had the best groove in rock. I'm sure there are others that you might argue, but I've always thought Chad had the best groove in rock. Now, the 3 songs we're going to learn today aren't necessarily his 3 hardest songs or his 3 best songs, just 3 of my favorite, and they're pretty cool parts. And I'm probably going to do a part 2 of this eventually, so let me know what other songs we should learn. Now, the first one I want to jump into is the intro of Around the World. The thing is bombastic, fast, and super cool. So taking a look at the sheet music, you're going to notice right away, it's just a bunch of 16th notes, a couple of 8th notes, and these 2 little 30-second notes right here. This part isn't too crazy. It is fast, so you're going to want to take it slow at first. But throughout it, there's a theme, a 3-note pattern, which snare kick like this. Now that pattern actually happens in every measure, so get comfortable with that. Now jumping right into measure 1, you're going to notice we have that pattern right off the bat, and you're going to play it 4 times in a row. Now there's a crash with all the snares except for that third one, which is the and after 2. That's going to be an open hi-hat, so watch out for that. Beats 1, 2, and 3 are going to sound like this. So beat 4 can be a little tricky when it comes to this sticking right, left, right, with a flam being on that first right. So you have a right flam and then a right on the snare drum. Then on the and after 4, we're hitting the rack tom, and then we follow it up with a floor tom on the after 4. That fill sounds like this. Now you can do whatever sticking you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be this right. You can do whatever you want. You just got to get those sounds. Measure 1 altogether should sound like this. So jumping right into measure 2, we have that 3-note grouping twice, and then that is followed up by an 8th note on the open hi-hat with a snare. So the first 2 beats of measure 2 sound like this. Now the fill for measure 2 is actually 2 whole beats. That's beat 3 and 4. And we're going, it's really just a single stroke roll. And the reason it has to be left on the snare there is because we're hitting the open hi-hat on that first note of beat 3. So it really ends up being, and then from there on, you're back to a right-hand single stroke roll. But you just got to notice that we go down the drums here once we get to beat 4. It goes snare, rack, floor, floor. So that fill, beats 3 and 4 all together, are going to sound like this. And measure 2 all together is this. Now we have measure 3, and we have that 3-note pattern once again, just like in measure 1, 4 times. But now the hi-hat is on the 4th snare drum, not the 3rd. So it's 1 later. Let's check out just the first 3 beats of measure 3. Now the fill for measure 3 is just on beat 4. And it's a left on a snare and a right on the rack tom. Once again, we have that left because there's a hi-hat on that first note, and it's an open hi-hat. Beat 4 sounds like this. And measure 3 all together should sound like this. I just broke my bass drum head. We're going to push on. Hopefully we can get through this. I don't know if it's going to sound funky, but we'll see. Measure 4, we have that 3-note pattern twice with an open hi-hat on that 8th note after 2, just like in measure 2 before. And that's going to sound like this. Now for beats 3 and 4, it's really just another single stroke roll. We have that little 30-second note burst there at the beginning. So this starts with an open hi-hat and a kick drum. And then we have a single stroke roll with that little burst. It's just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we're going to end our last note on the after 4 with a left hand on an open hi-hat. You're just going to close that on beat 1 of the next measure. So beats 3 and 4 sound like this. Now let's try to put the whole thing together nice and slow. And here it is at full speed. Next up is what I think is the band's most famous song, and that's Scar Tissue. Now, taking a look at the sheet music here, it's just the same measure twice, so you don't have to worry about learning two unique measures. But I will say there's a lot of improv going on in this part, and the ghost note patterns change up a bit throughout the song because Chad's really feeling it out as he's playing that. So sometimes we'll put little diddles in there, little roughs, less or more ghost notes. It just depends on what he was feeling in that moment. Right here, it also says rock swing. That just means we're not going to play it exactly straight. We're going to swing it a little bit. Also, take a look at these notes here with the parentheses. That is telling you that's a ghost note. A ghost note is just a quieter, lower stick height type of note. So right away, if we take all the ghost notes out, we have our basic groove. And our kick snare pattern is really just 1, a 2, and 4. 1, a 2, and 4. With our 8th note pattern, right? Just like that. We also, on the and after 4, have an open hi-hat. So let's add that. Right there we have. Now, if a lot of ghost notes are hard for you, that's a great place to start. Try playing the whole song like that before you start getting into the ghost notes. Now let's take a look at the ghost notes. So these notes are actually all on the E after each beat. Now beats 2 and 4 can be a little tricky because now we're playing a ghost note directly after a snare accent. So your left hand has to go accent tap. So your snare backbeats on 2 and 4 should sound like this. Now let's add everything together nice and slow. And now at full speed. And finally, we have one of my all-time favorite Chili Pepper songs and favorite album by the same name of Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magik. Now, the part's not super hard. It just perfectly fits into the song, which is why I love it so much. Now, we have a 16th note rock groove going on the hi-hat with our traditional kick, snare, kick, kick, snare pattern between the kick and snare. There's two things I want you to watch out for. First, we have open hi-hats on the after 1 as well as the after 4, which ends up being a pickup measure, which you see here at the beginning of the song. The other thing I want you to watch out for is following that open hi-hat on beats 2 and 1, he actually doesn't play the hi-hat, and it's just a nice fat snare. But you're also going to be stepping down on your hi-hat pedal at that time, so you should be getting a snare and hi-hat sound together, just like that. Now let's just take the hi-hat and snare parts together. That way we can kind of isolate this and see what's going on. Now let's add the kick pattern, which is on beats 1 and beats 3, as well as the and after 3. And just don't get too concerned with it. It's that simple pattern we all learned when we first started playing drums. And there you go. Now you know 3 iconic Chad Smith parts. And like I said before, I'm going to make a part 2 of this eventually. I have a long list of drummers to get through for this Learn the Legend series. And also, don't forget to check out those other episodes. I'll put a link to each episode in the description here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, take care.